Hello and welcome to another video. How you guys doing today? I hope everybody is good on this Sunday afternoon as we get this news here, of course, that Andre Onana, after yesterday's news that it was getting closer and that he was open to the move, has now completed, or I guess will be completing during the week, his move to Turkey. But everything is agreed, all set, and it's essentially done. That's it. That's the main news here. And I think a good follow-up from yesterday's conversation about the major clear out that we are seeing. So how's everybody doing today? You good? How are you? How are you enjoying your Sunday? Are you guys, some of you Americans, are you watching are you watching the first weekend of the NFL? Is that what you're doing? Some of you Britons, I know the British are now getting into it, obviously, with the games that are going on over in London and all of that. Is everybody becoming American football fans? How many of you are watching that? I'm curious. I don't keep up with it much anymore because I don't have the time to keep up with everything, but I am curious. I am very curious. I did get a haircut this last week. But yeah, and either way, I hope everybody is doing well, enjoying your weekend. Irish. The NFL is a terrible sport. Irish here. Well, yes, there's a lot of Irish people as well, mind you. I just don't know if anybody's getting into the NFL these days. I feel like I see more and more talk about the NFL from the other side of the Atlantic, but I don't feel like the crossover is as much between the people here in this channel watching footy. So I imagine that's not where the crossover is. I had a feeling it wouldn't be. I imagine there's a lot of people that aren't huge on the maybe it's people who like different sports that aren't as big on the football. That I guess maybe this is a little bit of survivorship bias. If you're here on a Sunday afternoon right now while the NFL is on watching me, you're probably not an NFL fan. So it's probably a little bit of confirmation bias here. It's probably that. If you're watching me and not the NFL, then obviously you're not an NFL fan. So I may be missing out on the people who are NFL fans right now. You've missed being able to watch lives whilst away with family. Well, I'm glad to see you back either way, though I hope you've enjoyed your time. But yeah, a lot to talk about. Did I see the Athletic article saying the environment broke Onana? Listen, I want to talk about this Onana thing, okay? I really do. I want to talk about this Onana thing because, yes, please do like the video, smash the like, all of that. Appreciate you very much, the people who do so and contribute. But let's kind of get right in and talk about Onana. I don't intend to do a super long live today, but I kind of want to get into it. It's the I don't love always going to war with traditional media. Maybe I do. I don't love always going to war with traditional media, mind you, in terms of different message, what's being said, what's not being said. In terms of what's being said and what's not. But there's been a really, really strange push all summer, if you haven't noticed, that's been like pro Onana in the media. Have you noticed that? Is it just me? I'm pretty sure that I've seen it and that I'm not the only one who's noticed it. But I remember it was like there was a meeting and it was like it was decided that Onana's the number one keeper. And this was like in June. And then it was like Onana's not fit. And then it was like, even though Onana's not fit, he retains the full confidence and he's the number one goalkeeper. And then it was like, we're not buying a keeper because they have full faith and confidence in Onana. And then it was like, even if they do buy a keeper, even if we do buy a keeper, Onana will remain first choice. And Lammens will be coming in as competition for Onana. I'm not talking about like people saying he's good. That's not even what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about people saying Onana's a good keeper, bear in mind. I'm talking about this continued story that keeps like diminishing in terms of what Onana's status is at United. It started with like full confidence, keeper not a priority, he's the guy. And then it was like, well, he's injured, but he retains the backing. And then it was like, well, maybe we'll buy competition, but he retains the number 1 spot. And now he's gone. And it was like, well, this huge diminishing reality. And the reporting has been funny because if you go from June forward, every few weeks it goes from like this extreme confidence in Onana, and all these things about the club having extreme confidence in Onana and Amorim having extreme confidence in Onana, to lower and lower and lower and lower and lower to the point where he's loaned. We wanted him out. We're not even getting money for him, and he's out. And it's like we've done this thing where we buy the replacement and kick him out. And I think that's really interesting. And I think that it speaks to the fact that, we have to be a bit more discerning in the way that we review the information. And I think definitely speaks to the change in the way that the information has come out of United, that there's a lot of people relying on the other aspect. Now, yes, we're getting money in the sense that we're getting his wages covered and things like that, and that's fine. It saves us more money for January. We'll talk about that in a minute. And it's just interesting because I know for sure, it wasn't the club saying it. And I think about like the whole Delap situation too. And I think that I remember at the time talking about Delap. And I remember at the time in the week beforehand, in the days afterwards, if you remember the videos from back then, I remember speaking about it and saying, I've been hearing he's going to Chelsea. I feel like they're not stupid enough to not have some inkling that he might be going to Chelsea and some backup plan and some alternative setup already ready to go. And in fact, they were. They'd already been in touch with Brian and Mbumo. They were already talking to other strikers and all sorts of stuff. And I don't know, man. I just wonder. It's been a really, really interesting summer where I think there's a lot of things that have happened in the end that were potentially unexpected. And I'm hoping it means some of the things that I'm hearing are more, I guess, impactful. Because one of the things I think we spoke about this in a live before summer too, and I said one of the things that I hope is that I often hear stuff like very early. The way that I tend to report things, I kind of hear things about like, this is what they think about this. This is what they want to do here. This is their feelings on this. This is the area that they're focusing on. This is the area that they're worried about. This is what they plan to do. And it's like the big early plans. And then it sort of narrows forward, and then they start actually contacting people, and then they start actually making deals. And there's people who report on those things when they're sort of a sure thing and they're already happening. And I report on the early stuff. And one of the things that used to happen a lot, which was rather frustrating, if we call back to that big, the big transfer list, is that all of that news was correct. That entire transfer list was all true. I can tell you with almost absolute certainty that nearly every single name on that big transfer chart was a name we were looking at and a name that we were interested in and positions that we wanted to address. The problem is, for years now, United have never really followed through. They make all these plans. They've got coaches who think this and analysts who think this and scouts who think this, and they make these big plans, and then when it gets time to decision time, it all goes out the window. And it's like, well, this is what we intend to do, but managers got a veto, and then it switches to something totally different. What I have noticed this year, this summer, which is encouraging to me in understanding what the club are doing, is that I feel very much aligned in knowing that the plans they've laid out are the plans that they've executed. What did I say all year? 3 forwards, and they wanted a new goalkeeper. And at the end of summer, that's exactly what they got done, even at the cost of a midfielder, which was, from my information, even leading up to summer, one can disagree or agree that whether this is right or not. My information leading up to summer was not that the midfielder was a top priority, which, again, I think people protested quite a bit. But you have to understand that's just the reality of the info. It wasn't a big priority. It just wasn't. You remember me at the start of the summer talking about our priorities and what we were going to go for, and it was 3 forwards, a goalkeeper, and then a midfielder would come after that. That's what we ended up doing. The encouraging part to me is that at least it means when they make plans, they follow through on those plans. And there's confusion and there's back and forth and things like that go on. But the biggest, most important thing to me is that they are proactive and not reactive in the way that they run the club, right? They set what they feel. They assess the situation. They go, that's what we need to fix. And they go out to fix it, and they don't get distracted and get thrown off course too much. They just go fix it. And that means like full analysis.
I have followed Man United
channels
for a decade now, but discovered you this summer, and you are 100% my fav. Keep up the great work, James. Glowing
Thank you,
star
Taylor. I appreciate that very much. It means a lot. Thank you. And that's encouraging because that's what we haven't done, right? They decided the players they wanted out. No messing about. You're out. And they got rid of all of them. I mean, bar Tyrell Malacia, which is he can't get a move because he's failing medicals. There's not much they can do about that. They have removed every single player they wanted out. They have. They're removing all of them. Casemiro maybe as an extra, but even Emram's willing to keep him with the knowledge that he will leave for free next year, so they didn't push too hard. Every single player they wanted out, they've got out. Every position they intended to address this summer, they addressed. We've never done that before. We've just never done that before. You know what I mean? We've just never done that before. That's encouraging because having a plan and sticking to it is better than having no plan and just flying by the seat of your pants and just, getting thrown off track by the next sparkly eyes. It's like the meme of the guy walking down the street with the girl and then the one walks past and he turns around and he's like, it was always like, established transfer targets, with proper data and analysis. And then it would be like Zlatan, you know what I mean? It's like, get distracted, you know what I mean? And I don't think we're necessarily going to, I don't think we're necessarily going to see, obviously, all of that in one way or another. I don't think we're necessarily going to see that, the results of that all at once. But I do think we will see it over the span of a few years that it is going to work. I mean, I looked at this the other day, and I looked at, this is one summer. This was Ten Hag's last game in charge, I believe. It was West Ham last season.
What do you make of rumours that Laporte and Deco are unhappy with Rashford? I know it's been reported otherwise, but any truth?
I haven't heard anything to suggest that that's true at this point in time, like that there's anything really in it. If we look at, this was the starting 11 from last year, just last year. Gone, and it's not just replaced. I want to bear in mind something serious about this that is different, because there's times when we've started the next season with a lot of different starters, but usually the guys we replaced were still there. They were still there sitting on the bench. You know what I mean? This was Ten Hag's last game. Gone, 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 gone. That's a lot. 5 starters, not just on the bench. Gone. 5. They're not even at the club now. That's 5 of the main starters from last season. Half a team is actually gone. They're not here anymore for the whole season at minimum, and in many cases permanently. They're gone. Right? And De Ligt was new. Mazraoui's new. Casemiro will be gone next season. Bruno, we know where he's at. It's like 5 of these players were genuine starters and they're gone. Not just not playing, not just on the bench, because that's how it would be, right? We get new players and it's like, oh, well, but we still have all this deadwood on the bench. I mean, Phil Jones would be there for 10 years, you know what I mean? Like, and then you look at all the other games, there's Lindelof and there's so many other players. There's so many players who are just genuinely gone. And then you look at, all right, that's serious. Next season, it's going to change a lot too. Casemiro will be gone. At least probably one other midfielder will be gone. Probably one center back will be gone. You know, Martinez is injured. You know, if he wasn't, would he be here? Either he'd be successful or he would be gone. But he's been injured, so we'll give him the benefit of the doubt on that and hope he has a good season when he comes back because he's part of the team. But it's like they're gone, man. They're gone. Not just not playing anymore. Not just, you know, that's the point of, I think, where we've seen it in the past be like, it's fake. It's a fake rebuild. It's a fake transition period. It's a fake turnover because it's like, wait, those players are still here. You know, we go from one manager to the next and it's like, wait, Martial was still here. They're all still here. You know, we'd actually barely get rid of the guys and they'd still be there. This is a serious turnover, you know, in general. And I think we'll get there. I think by next summer, by the end of next summer, there's a world where there are 0 players in the starting lineup that were there, in the starting lineup regularly last season. Seriously, that's possible. There's a world where it's 0. 2 seasons later, 0 of the same starters that were there before. It's quite possible because what we want some center backs. Lenny Yoro, I wasn't considering as a regular starter last season because he wasn't until Amorim came in. So I'm talking like before Amorim. And the reason is I'm not giving all credit to Amorim, but I'm saying he was their guy that they appointed to do this, right? So pre-Amorim, you could have Lammens, Yoro, Ahmad, a new center back, maybe Heaven, Dorgu, maybe 2 new midfielders, or maybe it's Kabi and a midfielder or something like that. Cunha, Šeško, and Mbumo. You could have a full 11 of starters. Most likely will have 10 players starting next season who were not starting 10 months ago from where we are today. Right? Because realize we're only 10 months removed from that West Ham game. That's the crazy part. 10 months ago. It wasn't even a year ago. It was 10 months ago. There's a serious world where we genuinely have, we end up with literally 10 or 11, depending on if Bruno survives, essentially is the main question, different starters than we had before in basically a season and a half. That's really impressive. That's the turnover we're talking about because for so long, it just felt like it was the same team. I mean, it just felt like it would be the same team and the same club and it would the same play and the same stuff and the same everything. And it just kept fading into minor changes, little things. And, you know, again, I will say, like Rashford said in his interview, you know, which is fine for him to say gone, but I thought what he said was good, which is that we never actually committed. We never even started the real teardown. It was always Band-Aids. It was always little patches, little things to cover up, you know, papering over the cracks, right, is the phrase. It was always the little things that we did to turn the clove over and not the real things, not the serious work. We were never willing to. And I think more importantly, what we're seeing is that if players aren't performing this season, they will be gone next year. They will be gone next summer. They will. They actually will. Like, you can see it. If players aren't good this year, they will get rid of them. We don't have to worry about that anymore, that they're going to sit and drag their heels and think about it and, well, preserve value and we'll wait 3 or 4 seasons and then we might extend their contract because maybe they'll come right. They'll be gone. You can have confidence in that. If there's one thing you can have a utmost of confidence in right now based on what has happened, if players aren't performing this season and they've been here a couple years, they're gone next season. It's done. It's over. And that's for sure. And we will build a cohesive squad. So I'm really, really happy with that. I'm really, really happy with that. And I think that this is where, to me, I'm calm about the future. Like I said to you, if you watch the video I did with Samix and that I've been talking about the last week, yeah, I'm pretty high on Ruben Amorim as being a part of this, but I also look at it and go, one of the things I think, no matter what, is that he's the first manager that didn't get in the way of this happening. That's the truth. He's the first manager that didn't get in the way of United actually ripping up. But now, not maybe the previous management, none of them were willing to do it either, right? Maybe none of them were willing to do it. But he is also the first manager willing to say, all right, we'll rip it up and completely tear it up, and we're starting from scratch, and I'm willing to go through that. And I'm not going to argue with it. I'm not going to fight it. I'm not going to turn it all around. I'm not going to flip it over. We're willing to.
Eric bought blindsided to fit a system that didn't match the Premiership. Go back 2 seasons ago, he bought 16 players, 4 remain. 3 on loan. 16
players, brought in 4 remain, 3 on loan. I know. The players we brought in, it was all short-term, based on just a random manager-led system. And what I'm saying is I'm willing, and that's totally true. What I'm very happy with Ruben Amorim is he's the first manager we've had, and that includes guys on like Solskjaer and includes guys like Jose who let the club rip it up and didn't fight it and didn't throw a fit about it and all of that. You can say he prevented Bruno from going to Saudi. He didn't. He didn't have a veto on the matter. If Bruno wanted to go, he would have gone. There's all these words and things that are said and all of that. Just like, he said he really likes he's happy with his keepers. It doesn't matter. The communication to Bruno was, it's up to you. We're not going to push you out the door, because they don't want to push Bruno out the door. They weren't actively trying to kick Bruno Fernandes out. It was up to him. And it was like, all right, well, if he leaves, we'll spend the money and rebuild. If he stays, we won't. And we'll spend the money and rebuild. And I think it's fine. I think you're obviously, that where you sit on that is going to be based on whether you rate Bruno or not. There's no doubt about that. Ruben's not why Bruno Fernandes didn't leave. He's not. He's not. Just so you know, he's not why Bruno didn't leave. I can tell you that for certain. He is not the reason Bruno didn't leave. Bruno was in general not convinced about going to Saudi, To some degree, I think he might have hoped we gave him a new contract or something. But I hear what was said, and that's why I say forget the papers for a minute in the traditional media.
Would you exchange the 2 trophies for the 600 meters ETH spent on Deadwood, which set the clock backwards?
I would give those trophies back in a heartbeat. Imagine, give me the 500 million back. Take your League Cup and FA Cup off of our trophy haul and give us that 500 million to spend under this management, and we'll be winning titles next season. That's how I feel. Instead, it was driving us towards a car crash. It was insane. You know what? Kind of the way that I look at it, because I've heard people say I've seen some comments and things about but our league position is lower. So how is this actually helping us? And I think that the misnomer in that, the mistake in that, is the idea that it's what you do right now that determines where you are right now. And I think that that's not true in most aspects of life, and including in football. Where we end up this season is less a consequence. I think there's some variance in that. There's a little variance in that. Don't get me wrong. I think where we end up now is less a consequence of what we do now and more a consequence of the last 3 years together. Bad,
My
a little better,
milestone
a little better.
will be a
My
title
35th
celebration.
milestone will be a title
Winking face
celebration.
emoji.
Let's go for
Party
that, Robbie.
popper emoji.
That's what I think Okay. Like how I've explained this before. You know, us finishing 15th last year was not because of last season. I mean, it was a contributing factor. But the season before had a massive contribution to that, and the season before had a massive contribution to that. And I think you can really look at football in almost like a rolling. It's kind of funny. PSR is looked at this way, right? But I think you can kind of look at football in like a 3-year rolling like situation. Like what we did in Ten Hag's first season is a big reason why we were bad after he left. All the players we bought, the way we played football, it all started falling apart. What we did in the second season had a big effect on that. What we did in the third season had some effect on that. But there was nothing we could have done last season to be a good football team. Nothing. Nothing at all. Now I look at this season and I think, all right, I think we started to take the right actions last season, even though it was a bad result. We took good actions this summer. We're still, and it's going quicker than expected. So maybe it'll be a 2-year cycle instead of a 3-year cycle. We're starting to fully rip off the mistakes from years past to where they don't affect us anymore, but they're still there. They're still there. I mean, we've spent the money that we can spend, did what we can, and we're still left with a midfield that's short. We're still left with some issues at wing back and things like that, and we're still left with some things that the players are still even learning today because it's been such a short time. So I look at it and I go, based on that, I kind of think, obviously next season is where I think will be really good and where it's like, that's it. We've got 2 seasons of doing things right, 3 summers of doing things right. That's it. It's time to, like, we're all in next year. Next year, I want to see the club competing. I don't think they'll win, but I want to see them competing for the title. I do. And I think that's the standards that we should set. And I think this year we need to go in progress to that. If next year the aim is to be between first and third, you know, and we're in, we started in a 15th place position in between. And for me, I think we can do better than, I think it can be sped up a little bit. But yeah, I think that the difference between first and fifth is bigger than the distance between 5th and 17th. And that's why I think we could get into the top 5 this season, because I think we need to close the gap to first. And I expect us to do more. If we were going halfway, I think 17th to 5th is actually less than halfway from 5th to 1st in terms of how good the teams are. Like, I know that's maybe hard to understand, but I think it's because that last climb is a little harder. It's like summiting, you know, Mount Everest, like, or whatever. Like, the last mile is actually the hardest part of the whole thing or something. I don't know if that's true of Mount Everest, but, you know, it sounds good in theory, whether it's true or not. So it's not about it being right off, but it's also about performance. Last season, we did, in fact, perform better than the prior season. And this season so far, we're even performing better than last season in the 3 games that we've seen, even though we haven't won all of them. And I think we'll continue that kind of climb. So I'm just really happy with the general direction of things. I hope it goes faster. I hope we have a good season. I'm going to be, you know, it's easy to look at it right now and say it's calm. You know, we're into an international break. We won the final game before the break. We've got 2 tough games afterwards. We're all prone to probably having emotional responses after Chelsea and City and all that, depending on how it goes. But I think we're doing the right things. And I think that one way or another, if you look at, like, I guess the question becomes, even with what you're seeing at the moment, can you trust that the people are doing the right things? And I think by the actions that we can measure so far, the answer is clearly yes. The squad is being built properly. The players are being moved out properly. And we're on the right track. The results will come. They will. I'm so confident of that because they have to. If you do the right things, the results have to happen. It's not always a direct, instantaneous line. There's always fine margins in football and things like that. Like we say, it's the fine margins between should we have had that penalty against Arsenal to having a draw and them dropping 2 points and us being, I think, level or ahead of them on points, maybe? Like, that's a fine margin. Should have been a penalty, I'm just saying. You know what I mean? Like, that's the types of margins that we could be talking about. The results are improving, or the performances are improving. The right things are being done off the pitch time and time and time again. And as I kind of went over in the tactical videos, the problems tactically that are showing up are being solved. Week by week by week, they're getting better. The problems with players are getting solved. Week by week by week, they're getting better, through the whole summer to where we are now. And I think window by window by window, the problems are being properly identified and properly dealt with, even if you can't do it all at once. It's everything is there on its way, but I think the difference between it now and it in the past is what we used to do is we used to take this shaky, beaten down car and just strap on some rocket boosters. So it would be like, whoom, we shoot forward into the top four, into this position where we're like, oh my God, we're almost there. And then it just explodes. And then what do? We get some shaky little car that's a little more damaged than it was last time. And we strap on these rocket boosters and we go, whoom, and we shoot back into the top four. And then it falls apart again. And then we put it back together and we strap on these rocket boosters and we won't shoot it into the top four. Well, instead of strapping on the rocket boosters over the last season and a half or so, we've said, all right, we're going to start stripping this car down because there might actually be something underneath it that's worth saving. And we're going to put on piece by piece the right parts, the right tires and the right engine and the right, electronics and all the pieces that need to make this car not just fast, but stable. That is not blowing up and falling apart every other time we rock it forward. And then we can give it a little bit of the jet fuel and the polish at the end of that. And we're in the midst of that. So yes, we don't have that rocket ride forward like we've had in the past, but it is built to be more sustainable for the long haul. And that matters. That matters. And I think we're in that process. And so, yeah, we're not the fastest car on the road yet, but we will be. Because we're building the best car on the road. That's how I see it. That's how I see it. That's what I think. I think we're building the best car on the road and one that will last. Like we used to. Like we did before. And then as the parts wear down and break, we can just repair them. We'll just replace them with better parts. One by one instead of the whole thing falling apart, every 2 seasons. That's the difference between what we were doing. There's a lot of patchwork and cheap fixes and cheap, cheating. We cheated, man. We cheated so many times. We're not cheating anymore, and I think it's sometimes hard to deal with, For the years of talking about how I'm not sure we're ready for a rebuild to deal with it as fans, myself included, this is what it looks like. We're in it. We may not have realized it, but look at the turnover. Look at the changes. We're in it. We're in it. We are in the rebuild. We may not have realized it, but we're in it. I know you're all reacting too emotionally about Onana going has made you way too happy. Yeah, well, that's true. It's more symbolic, isn't it, Shatters? Think about Lindelof leaving this summer. Think about it for a second, Shatters. Lindelof is gone, and Onana is gone, because I know where your opinions are on certain players. Though they would have still been here in years past. I think the symbolism of that is telling you that we'd rather rip the rusted parts off the car than keep them on just because they're there, and that they may block a little bit of wind as it comes through, So I'm very happy with it. We're in the rebuild. We're deep into it now, and we can't give up. I want to see it through. Okay, I want to see it through. Exactly. Yeah, I got you there. We need to see it through. That's what I want to see. And I think by next summer, the rebuild will be done. We had 8 years of Victor Lindelof. 8 seasons of Victor Lindelof. We never did this before. We've never done this. We've never been willing to follow through. Now we are. So, yeah, I feel really, really positive about it. Obviously, the results have to match to feel positive about it. But I'll say this, even if they don't, and we have to change the manager, as long as they get the same type of person in, we will be okay. But I think it's going to be fine. I think we're going to be very competitive in games this season. I think we're going to finish above most people's expectations. And I think we'll be, after City and Chelsea, I think we're going to be okay. I think we're going to be okay, you know? I think we're going to be okay. Not saying we're going to win both and blow everyone away, you know, but I think we'll get to the end of those 2 games and it'll be like both very competitive, both games in there, and I expect we're not going to lose both. I severely doubt we lose both of those football games. And then we'll feel where we want to feel at the end of it, you know, and then I think we'll have confidence in moving forward. So yeah, that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at today. I feel good, and I think this Onana thing is just another example, because what it means to me is that they didn't compromise on the thing they thought was a big problem and just say, and we'll do it later. I know they didn't necessarily plan at the start of summer to get the midfield sorted out. I know that it became an opportunity perhaps during summer where they thought, we might end up with money, we might be able to solve this, we might get a jump on this. But I know it wasn't something they viewed as like live or die. Goalkeeper, it was. And to me, it was. And I think this is the first time we've ended the window, the international break, where I'm not sitting there going, and I know people are going to disagree with me. I know people are disagreeing with me because they're going to think the midfield is so bad and so horrid that it's going to kill us. I know people are going to disagree with me, and you're welcome to. We've only seen 3 games, but I think the 3 games have shown the midfield is really not the issue, my opinion. If the goalkeeper was certainly a bigger issue in all 4 games we played this year so far, my opinion. But this is the first time I'm going in and saying, all right, when we come back from this first international break after the transfer window, I'm just thinking, I just want upgrades. There's a team here. I just want upgrades. Now it's just about some upgrades. There's no glaring, obvious, disastrous hole in the side where I'm like, that player's going to kill us. I don't feel that way. Even about the Bruno Casemiro thing, which I thought I would, I look at it and I go, it's not going to win a title, but it's not a disaster. And it's not a disaster like, it's not at all a disaster, frankly. And if you can get Kobe going and things like that in there too, which I think we will, it's not a disaster. I've usually felt every year like there's a disaster waiting. There's a player, there's no left back. You know, we went into last season, what happened? Højlund gets injured right before we start. Shaw gets injured. And you go into last season and you go, well, I don't have confidence in the goalkeeper. We have no left back, and our striker's injured. That's how we started last season. Disastrous. We started the season under Ten Hag, his first season, and you looked at all the positions and you go, the fuck? Eriksen is our deepest midfielder, or Fred is like our anchor? Hold on a second. That is a disaster waiting to happen. Martial gets injured mid-season and Ronaldo's leaving. We have no striker. We still didn't have a left back. Actually, we bought Malacia, so we had some coverage there. It was actually not a problem for a few weeks. But I think what was the other thing? I think it was the right back. It was like it's Wan-Bissaka and Dalot still. We had no confidence in those positions. Every year there's been like a disaster waiting to happen. When you look at the squad, you know we don't even have options in these positions. They're like 3 of them where it's going to be a huge disaster. Now I look at it and I'm like, yeah, since fixing the goalkeeper, I don't think there is a disaster waiting to happen in this team. I think it's got limitations. I think it has its limitations, but I don't think there's any sort of like gaping, exploitable disaster. And like I said, I know people are going to disagree with me on that in the midfield. I can only continue to point you to the evidence to the contrary, that it will be okay. And no, I have full confidence that we have fixed the goalkeeper thing. Lammens will become the keeper. That's the other factor here. I've told you that it's wide open. The sale of Onana, with the lack of confidence that there is in Bayindir, because there is a lack of confidence in Bayindir, should tell you they expect Lammens will be the starter very, very shortly. And he'll need time and he'll make mistakes here and there, but that's fine. He's going to... I have full faith in the recruitment in their eyes on this. You know what I mean? I have full faith in their recruitment in their eyes on getting the right person in, and I think that he's going to be excellent. I think he's going to be excellent. Does he start versus City? We'll find out. Tuesday, some players will return. Wednesday, some players will return. Thursday, some players will return. And we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens when they work in training. And I think that there's other factors too, you know? Cutting the rot out. You know what I mean? Cutting the rot out of the team will improve the others. The shakiness. Like, I think that just having a new keeper in place, they'll go, thank God, and perform better. Because there won't be all this constant trauma. You know, I've talked a lot about this recently. There's constant memories of trauma from the mistakes from Bayindir, the mistakes from Onana. Even an unknown is better than knowing they're going to be shit. It's not always better to, you know, sometimes the unknown is better. Sometimes, it's like not knowing is better than knowing. Knowing they're going to be absolutely ass and they're going to cost you will affect you a lot more than saying, we'll see what he can do. Because you're going to give him the benefit of the doubt, play the way you want to play, and not feel like you have to protect them at all times. And I think that's going to help. I think that our attack, as Mbumo gets going, I think Mbumo has the potential to be the best winger in the league. I think what we've seen from him, I seriously believe that. I think Cunha has the potential to be top 2 in his position. We'll see when Šeško gets going. I have a lot of confidence. I have a lot of confidence in a lot of this team, and I think our defenders are getting really good. I think our center backs. Look, I know this is crazy, but it's like I was asking on The View, and it's hard for people to answer this question because we are very United-centric. And you look at United and you go, well, we're not that good, and there's a lot of teams that are better than us. But if you actually watched, the games themselves, I really want to know who was actually good so far. Like, who's actually been good the first 3 weeks of the season? I know there's teams that have rode out some results, but I'm not going to lie to you. I think, Liverpool beat Arsenal, right? To an absolute unbelievable kick from Szoboszlai that got it over the line. I think we were better against Arsenal than Liverpool, but ended up losing. Goalkeeper mistake and a missed penalty, right? But I think performance-wise, we were better than them. Liverpool weren't very good. I don't think there's that... Arsenal have squeezed by and been incredibly mediocre. I'm just saying, I know it's only 3 games, but when you stop looking at it from a United-centric view and you look at other teams, you go, if you're a fan of all these other teams, I think most of them this year so far are sitting there going, we're not very good. We're not very good. I think if you're a fan of Man City, you're watching them and going, we're kind of shit. We're kind of shit. I think most teams are feeling that way. If you're an Arsenal fan watching those first 3 games, and even the pundits and people are saying it, you're kind of like, what the hell? Like, we're crap. You know what I mean? I don't know who would necessarily feel positive about their start. Maybe Bournemouth, considering all the players that they've lost, would feel pretty good about what they've been able to do so far, even though they lost to Liverpool. Like, there are a couple little clubs that'll feel good about themselves, and that's fair. But I don't think over the course of the season that'll shake out. I think we're in the messiest time in the Premier League, and I think that's why we're going to end up I think when you look at it purely from United, we go, we're not that good. But if you watch every other game, you go, they're not that good either. They're really not. I mean, Chelsea, I get they've won a couple games big, right? And they have that ability to just have that firepower to just score a bunch of goals. But like that Fulham game, the refs fully bailed them out of being down 1-0 in that game. And they were terrible for 50 minutes. And until they got bailed out on that penalty, they were terrible. Their performance was way worse against Fulham's than ours, but the result ended up the other way, you know? And so it's like, I feel like when you really watch all the teams, we're in a bit of a transition in the Premier League, and that's why we have an opportunity. And I think our performances have been, so far, quite good. Generally, I think that it's been better. And I look at it and I go, wait, what attack has actually been that good right now? What center backs have been better than De Ligt and Euro to start the season? Not many. Not many. You know? So we have all our concerns because of everything. We just need to win some games, obviously. There's no doubt about that. We've got to win some football games and carry that confidence forward, but I think we will. I think it's like, yeah, it does feel a bit like 2015 when Leicester won the title. Like, I genuinely don't think there's a clear-cut answer there. And I get, Liverpool are probably the main ones there. They've got, with Isak coming in and all that, they've got some incredible firepower coming in. But I don't think that's why they're bad. Florian Wirtz looks terrible. He looks like Andreas Pereira for us. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's wild to see that. So I'm happy with where we're at. I think the first three, look, all we can go off of are the first 3 games for this season. And based on those first 3 games, I'm happy. Based on what we're seeing in the market, I'm happy. Based on kicking players out, I'm happy. I think the right things are being done. And that's what gives me confidence for the future. It's like, if you know that those things are being done, then you'll feel good. If you know that they're not being done, you won't feel good. You know what I mean? It's like, that's the difference. And I really do think we will get flying. I remember similarly, similarly, I remember, even though it was a little bit different, I think it was the closest time to when we kind of started taking off, and maybe it was a mirage. You know what I mean? Maybe it was a mirage in terms of that, because of the closed stadiums and things like that. But I remember in Solskjaer's first few games, in the second season, we had like a really good game. Was it Leeds? We had like a crazy game, or was that the third season? I don't remember when it was, honestly. But we had like a good game and then a shit game, and then we got destroyed by Tottenham. But there were signs that we were actually probably going to be pretty good. Am I suggesting that we are? No, I'm not. I'm not suggesting we're better than those 3 clubs. I am suggesting that our performance have actually been better than Arsenal and City and even potentially Liverpool for the first 3 games of the season. I am suggesting that. Over the course of the season, they have the experience, the time together, and the quality that they will surpass us, because they will click too and get better. But I'm saying that it's the struggles we've had at the start of the season, there's a bit of an overreaction to it, because even the very good teams have had a bit of a struggle to start the season. We've actually looked probably better than them at that point in time.
Any thoughts on the
Solskjaer,
Barcelona? Is it likely that they return Rashford?
At the end of the year, we don't know. It's way too early to call anything on the Rashford thing. There's really been nothing on it at the moment. What I'm saying is that they're performing poorly. We're worried about our struggles to start the year, fairly so, totally understood. But we actually have slightly better signs of things than them. I expect they will get going. Fabrizio said on YouTube, okay, fair enough. Yeah, like I said, I haven't heard a damn thing. So I do suspect that's all bullshit. I haven't heard a damn thing. It'd be way too early to pass any judgment on the Rashford loan. It's that I expect they will get going and they'll do well, but I think so will we. And I think that the struggles we've had to start the season are a bit overblown when you compare it to the struggles a lot of teams have had. In fact, we look like a good team that is ready to go. And I kind of reminded of that Solskjaer season. We got battered by Tottenham, and then after that went on a fantastic run through most of the rest of the season and performed quite well. So that's how I see it. That's how I feel about it. Is that we are also ready to go. And I don't think we have the time together, the quality yet, and all the problem solves to be as good as some of the guys like Arsenal, Liverpool, City in the long run this season. But I think the fact of the matter is that even they have struggled to start the year. And I think that what it's doing for us is it's giving us time to sort ourselves out this year. And I think we will. I think we will sort ourselves out. And I think nobody's running away from us in the top. I think the top 5 are not running away from us before we sort things. I mean, look at Newcastle. Look at our competition for the top 5, right? City, Arsenal, Liverpool, Chelsea, Tottenham, Newcastle, you would say are the main competition for the top 5. Well, Newcastle are poor right now. We're not following behind them. And I think City are fairly poor at the moment. We'll see. Spurs are in the middle. I don't think anyone's going to run away from us yet. And I think that we will have another month to really get going without falling way behind. There's been seasons where it's like, fuck, man, recently, right? Like by November, we're like 13th. You know what I mean? We're like 13th. And it's like, holy shit, like we're already falling way off the pace of the top 5. I don't think we're going to be in that situation this year, even if it takes us a little bit to get going. I think we'll be fine. I think we'll be right there with them. When they start to click, I think we'll start to click. So we'll see. Look, we'll revisit all of these feelings after City. We'll revisit all of these feelings after Chelsea. But bear in mind, like, we could end up with 1 point after those 2 games. And you know what? Doesn't matter. Because we're not expecting to be better than them. If we're competitive and we cannot lose both games, to me, that's a victory. As long as we keep the performances that we're doing up. It's after that we really need to take off and start to win. The performances are the dictating factor to me still. And then I think the points will rack up. We knew it, right? When we all saw the schedule, what did we say? United have the toughest start in the league. We did know that, by the way, that United have the toughest start in the league. Let's not forget that for a second. We do have the toughest first 5 games in the entire Premier League. Playing Arsenal, Fulham away, City, and Chelsea in the span of the first 5 weeks is the toughest schedule in the Premier League. If we can get through those 5 games with good performances, and if we can manage to somehow get some results in these next 2 games, but our performances stay good and competitive, I'm going to be thrilled. If we're within still like 3-4 points after 5 weeks of where we need to be after the toughest start in the league, I'm thrilled, because then I think that we will take off. And and there will be a point after this come November where, of course, October too, right? If I'm not mistaken, where these teams are starting to play midweek games, and they're going to struggle a bit on those weekends. And we'll have gotten through the toughest start to the season. We'll be performing well. We'll have a game a week. They'll be tired. They'll start dropping points like they always do in that November, Christmas, October, November, Christmas period where things start to shake a little bit as they get in. There's extra Champions League games and all of that. And I think that'll be the opportunity. So it's just about performances for me. If we can perform well through these next few weeks, then we'll get there. But that's why I'm happy. We're performing. I think the performances have been good. I think that the movement off the pitch has been good. We're gonna get there, man. We're just gonna get there. I'm just confident. You can never predict the future. Nobody knows. But the fact is, as long as you're taking the right steps, then at least you know what you're doing. It's like, there's no other way to look at it. You know what I mean? It's like there's There's no other way to look at it. The only thing you can do, because nothing happens all at once, the only thing you can do is do the right thing now. And then keep doing the right thing and keep doing the right thing and keep doing the right thing. That's your best bet. It's only when you're not doing the right thing you can be certain that you're not going to get there. Because you can't scam your way to victory. It's too tough. You can't. So that's it. I mean, that's my feelings on the matter. That's how I feel about the team, and that's how I feel today on this Sunday. We'll see what happens through the rest of the week in the lead up to City. I'm hopeful when the players return, we get some good training in. We see some of the flaws we still see against Burnley that were there, especially defending, more individual defending, and the keeper.
James, I think one key thing for Amorim would be to absolutely ruthless in his management this season. Absolutely stick to the guns with the system. Players who are still making mistakes, bench them. System ingrained at all cost.
100%, Angie. 100%. Just zero compromise. Whoever is playing within the system the best plays. If that means Mason Mount ends up starting a shitload of games and we're seeing, rotation for Seshko and rotation for Cunha, I don't care. Whoever is getting, I'm not saying they won't be good or they're not getting it, by the way. I'm just saying whoever is getting it needs to play. Whoever is getting it needs to play football. That's my feeling. And stick to it and just fight through to make sure we get where we need to be and reach the end result of actually having a team that has a way of playing. That's unique, that's different, that's supposedly dominant. I mean, when you look at the numbers, the one thing I would say about this, you can argue about the system many different ways. You can say whether it's good enough or this or that. But I will say this, and this is factual. The system does prioritize controlling games and controlling possession. And we've not had a system that has done that since Van Gaal probably was trying. We haven't. So that's the most important thing. And we need that. United need to be a team that is the big team in games, that doesn't go into games playing like the small team. And you can look at every single game we've played, and we're not playing like the small side, the small plucky side. We're playing, the way that we play is playing like the team that wants to be in control of the game. We have to get better at it. But at least we've picked a system that is intended in that direction. Chelsea has Bayern on the Wednesday before our match with them on Saturday. Well, that's good news. That's good news for us. And this is where I think we can get some advantages. This Champions League picks up. The iron is hot. We get a team at home that's played 3 days earlier while we're fresh. That's where we can really make a dent and really, it's unique. You know what I mean? And I think this is where Chelsea won a league some years ago, right? If I'm not mistaken. It's unique. It's unusual, extremely unusual for a big team who has the type of quality of players that we've brought in and aspirations that we have to not have those midweek European games, right? I mean, I'm trying to think of the last time. For us, obviously, it's been a long time. And we weren't that good at that time either. We didn't even buy the best players. When's the last time we saw a big team like United or City or Arsenal or Liverpool? Or Chelsea? When's the last time we saw a big team not be in Europe at all and have brought in the quality of types of players we have and have the potentially high quality squad when you look at the forwards and you look at that? When's the last time it's actually happened? When's the last time there's been a season where a team just didn't have any midweek games? We don't even have the League Cup to worry about now, which not necessarily a good thing, but when's the last time that happened, that one of these big full five, let's say, had no Europe and they were able to, but they had the players like a top 5 team? It was probably when Chelsea won the league, if I'm not mistaken. I can't honestly remember when anybody else had that situation besides Conte's Chelsea and they won the league. Now, I'm not saying we're going to win the league, but I am saying that was certainly a factor in that. Chelsea, when they were 12th, when they finished 12th, they got Caicedo and Lavia. Yeah, but I wouldn't consider Chelsea being settled at that time. I think Chelsea in 26-17, when they got Conte and Alonso and all that I think that would have been the comparison, in my opinion. And I think that's the closest comparison to what we can do now. Liverpool with Mane. Weren't they in Europe, though? No, but fair enough. But their team was pretty crappy. Like, they hadn't really done their rebuild. City, when they first got taken over, that might be closest. Yeah, that's true. They won a title pretty quickly, didn't? Well, I don't know how long it took, actually. But bit difference. But yeah, I would say the last time was probably that Chelsea season when they brought in some top players and they didn't have Europe and they had, and they went for that. And sure, the league was shit 16, 17. Agreed, but I kind of think it's like that now, RSV, to be quite honest. Like, I don't think the league is that good right now. I just don't. I don't think it was that good last season. I don't think it's that good this season, especially. We'll see as time goes on, but I'm not impressed. I mean, we are seeing almost the Man City in their transition phase and somewhat fall off. Where Liverpool, even though they won a title last season, I still don't think they're as good as they were under Klopp. I mean, the years that Klopp was pushing Pep getting 90, 100 points, they were better than they were last season and this season. Do you agree? I think so. Arsenal, to me, are stagnating. They've been the same years in a row, and this season so far they look worse, and I don't see why it's going to get better. They're still the same team as ever. They still play so conservatively that I just don't see how they're ever going to get good, and they're starting to rack up injuries left and right. I just don't think there's that many good teams right now. So I do think the league is a bit of a mess. So I think there's a lot of circumstances that will let United, with one game a week, get going, and be competitive in those areas. I'm not saying we're going to win a title like Chelsea did. I'm not even claiming that at all. I don't think we have the experience, but I do think that we will be among the top 5 for real. So, Liverpool's been lucky scoring. Yeah, they haven't. They did that a bit under Klopp too, but they haven't performed that well. They haven't. Frankly, I think football in general has taken a little bit of a dip. So it's not just England, mind you. I do think that the overall top of football has come down quite a few steps lower than it was even a few years ago. So, but that's it, guys. That's all I wanted to talk about. It's been a good discussion. I'm feeling very optimistic. The Onana thing is probably the final action of the transfer window for us. Really good story. Okay, really, really good thing. Really good sign. I'm very hopeful. We'll revisit this through the week, talk about different things, go over different stuff, and then head on into City at the weekend, and I hope we get some big results. But do you see Lammens and Vitek competing? Yeah, probably. But yeah, I think one big win, one big game, like City or Chelsea, like if we get a draw against Chelsea and then a win against City, I think that'll be the statement that sends things up. And I think we can do something like that. I think we can get a win in one of these games and really lay a marker down because nobody's expecting us to, but I think the signs are all there. So let's see. Okay, guys, thanks for watching today. Make sure to hit a like on the way out.
James,
I appreciate you all
with
very
how PL
much
is
for
getting
spending
so
your
good,
Sunday afternoon
central
with me.
progression would not be the main form of progression. Every team will rely on variations, and Pep is also realizing that.
That's true. That is true. This is you are absolutely correct. Samix was talking about this in our video about how the switch to this man-to-man press through the middle is blocking a lot of central progressions in the ways that people aren't used to, and is requiring a lot more variations than in the past. And I actually think we might be, even though we're struggling at it, even though it's unusual, we might for once be slightly ahead of the curve on this. So we'll see about that. But thank you all again. Thank you for hanging out with me, and I will see you later. Thank you for that, Angie. I will see you later.